Yo, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to Tower of God New World. In today's video, we are going to talk about wish lists. So this video is specifically for beginner players. If you are a veteran player, you guys should already max out most meta units by now. So this video doesn't really have anything to do with veteran players. It's mostly for beginner players. So before I talk about wish lists, beginner players, you guys should have access to the welcome banner. Unfortunately, I don't have access to it because I'm not a beginner player. But I'm going to put a picture right here for you guys so you can see a quick example as of to what the welcome banner looks like. So the welcome banner, I definitely recommend you guys to invest in a welcome banner first, do your summons, and then once you max out Yiwa, Joaquin, or Evankel, then you can move on to, of course, the normal summon banner. Now for the welcome banner, I definitely recommend you guys to summon for Yiwa, and then after you summon for Yiwa, skip Joaquin so that you can have enough resources to summon for Evankel so that you can max her out. So once you finish with the welcome banner, we head on over to the normal summon banner. So this banner right here, permanently in game, you're always going to use this to summon for new units. So I'm pretty much going to organize a couple wishes for you guys. And of course, I'm going to rank these wishes. Like the way that the wishes are going to work is the first wishes that I'm going to recommend is if you are absolutely brand new to the game. And then the second wishes I'm going to recommend is when you're pretty much progressing. When you're progressing through the game, you have pretty much your first team comp solidified, and then you're pretty much trying to add another team comp, because when you progress in adventure mode, you need multiple teams. So recommending you guys a wish list that focuses on a specific team comp is a wise thing to do. So that's pretty much how I'm going to do it. We're going to progress like these wish lists. The way I'm going to do it is the first wish list I recommend is when you're brand new to the game. Second wish list is when you're in like the early game and you're reaching the mid game. And then third wish list is when like you're focusing on bosses. And I'll say fourth wish list is when you pretty much want to summon for any unit because you have most units maxed out. So the first wishes I'm recommending for beginner players is Purple Team Comp. Now, Purple Team Comp is literally the strongest free-to-play team because it doesn't include any SSR Plus units. You can literally use this entire team with just SSR characters only. So, Joaquin, first pick right here. And like I said, if you're summoning on a welcome banner, don't summon for Joaquin because you want to save your resources to summon for Evankel. So put Joaquin in a normal summon banner. And if you guys haven't used your SSR limit break chest and your Joaquin is at 0 copies, Joaquin would be a very good pick. But the thing is, he's on a welcome banner, so I would use the SSR limit break chest on another unit like Vivi, for example. So Joaquin, first pick right here, very, very strong warrior DPS unit. And the next unit we have is going to be Hayura. Now for Hayura, this unit, you don't have to max her out. You don't have to max her out. So once you reach, I'll say 3 red stars, then you want to swap her out and use another unit. So for Hayura, only 3 red stars. And then once you reach 3 red stars, you swap her out. And the next unit we have is going to be Vivi. Now Vivi is literally like the strongest, like one of the strongest range units in game. Really, really good and very, very free to play friendly. So you definitely want to go for Vivi. And then after that, we have Kaseya. Now, Kaseya, I will say at the beginning phase of the game, she is very, very powerful. She can instantly one-tap enemies, very, very strong. But of course, the more you progress, it's going to be really difficult for her to one-shot enemies. So I will say for Kaseya, you definitely want to max her out. But once you max her out, of course, you want to take her off the wishlist and use another unit. So Kaseya in the purple team comp, and the last unit we have is going to be Vargarv. So for Vargarv, if you already have Karaka at 3 blue stars, there is no reason for you to summon for Vargarv because Karaka is way better than Vargarv. But if you don't have Karaka, then you can summon for Vargarv. And if you guys are wondering what Karaka looks like, if I come over here to rates, this is what Karaka looks like. This SSR Plus right here, he is a tank unit. He is absolutely wonderful. And if you have enough copies on him, like I'll say 3 blue stars or 3 purple stars, no reason for you to summon for Vargarv. So only put Vargarv in this wish list if you don't have Karaka or you don't have a lot of copies on him. So definitely will recommend Vargarth for beginner players because you guys won't, have the option to pretty much max out Karaka. So this is literally like the first wish list right here. Purple team comp, very, very good. I'm still using it currently on 451. It is a very strong team, very, very strong, and literally the best free to play team. Very, very good. The units here are very, very powerful. And Hayura, the fact that she's one of the strongest support units in the game, she just enhances his team and she's just amazing. Really, really strong support unit. So purple team comp, first wish list. Now, for the second wish list, this wish list is when you're at the, I'll say, in between the beginning phase of the game and the mid phase of the game. So once you have your purple team, I won't say completely maxed out, but once your purple team is pretty much good to go and is really, really strong. Now, for this second wish list, the first unit you want to get here on this second wish list is, of course, compressed rack. Now, the reason why they recommend Iwa is because you should be able to max out Iwa through the welcome banner. You should be able to reach at least 3 red stars on her, so you don't want to put her on the normal summon banner. So once you're done with the welcome banner, then you come over here to the wish list, compressed rack, your first pick. Very, very good for a light element team. Very, very strong range DPS unit. After that, we have bomb. Bomb is pretty much a great support unit, especially for light team comp. He can pretty much work in multiple teams. He can pretty much stun enemies, which is very useful. So bomb, really, really good for light teams. So you definitely want to summon for him. He doesn't require a lot of copies because he is a support unit. So I will say once you reach 3 red stars, you want to swap him out for another unit. So after that, we have Donkey Hats. Donkey Hats, really, really good tank unit for light element. The fact that he can pretty much shred defense, he has great survivability, and he can deal pretty good damage. You definitely want to pick him for sure. After Hats, we have Faros. Now, Faros, she is pretty much good against bosses, and she is also pretty decent in adventure mode. At the early phase of the game, Faros is an absolute beast. Like, you can literally make her a DPS unit at the early phase of the game. She is insane. But once you progress more, she becomes more of like a support unit. Like, she's pretty much there to buff your allies and pretty much place shields, and that's it. That's all she's there for. So early phase Faros, pretty much a DPS unit. Late game phase Faros, he's pretty much a support unit. So definitely want to go for Faros for sure. And then another unit after that. Now for this spot right here, it would be a flex spot. And what I mean by a flex spot is depending on which team comp you have complete, purple team comp should be your first priority. So that's definitely complete. But the fact that you're working on light team, you have Yiwa, you already have bomb, you already have hats and compressed drag, and of course you're gonna have one copy of Evans, so your light team is also complete as well. Now all you have remaining is red team, blue team, and green team. So this spot right here is pretty much a flex spot for you to decide which unit you want to go for a specific team comp. So I would put Blanc in this spot. She is a great healer, not only for blue element, but for pretty much a lot of teams. She is very, very good. So Blanc, really nice unit for adventure mode and in bosses as well, especially because of her phase 2. Really, really useful for Kaiser. So investing in Blanc wouldn't be a bad idea. Or you can take out Blanc and you can put in this unit right here. You can put in Gia Gia. She is really, really great for red element because of her passive, and she can heal. So Gia Gia is a pretty good pick. Or you can also swap in Red Masqua, depending on which team you need, like which team you're focusing on for this second wish list. And then after Red Masqua, you have Blurode. Blurode, very, very good when it comes to pulling enemies and destructing the enemy team formation. He is very useful when it comes to getting rid of Blanc in adventure mode. So Blurode, very, very good against some enemies in adventure mode. Plus, he is a great boss unit. He can literally one-tap Quant and Mock Battle. After I talk about this wishlist, I'm going to show you guys an example. He can literally one-shot Quant. So investing in Blurode as a beginner player isn't a bad choice because he is pretty much going to affect your account in a good way. He's very, very useful long term. So definitely getting a copy of Blurode is really nice. So this flex spot, you pretty much want to choose units that are I'll say meta, but at the same time, they're tech units. They work in specific situations. For example, Lero. Lero is great against bosses, and he's very useful for Kaiser. And of course, you have Novik. Very, very nice when it comes to amplifying units who deal basic attack damage. So this is just a flex spot right here. You can put any meta unit you want in this flex spot. Now for this wish list pretty much focuses on boss content. If you are a player who wants to deal a lot of damage against bosses, this wish list is definitely for you. So the first thing I'm going to recommend here is of course going to be Hwarun. The last list with light element, I pretty much included Hwarun in that list if you wanted to max her out while you're building a light element team. But if you didn't want to choose Hwarun, you wanted to choose another meta unit, that's fine. So for this wish list, the fact that Hwarun is really, really good against bosses, you definitely want to get a lot of copies on her because she can benefit you not only in boss content, but in adventure mode as well. So after Hwarun, you also have Novik. Now, reason why I recommend Novik is because of Kaiser. Kaiser is insane. Literally the best boss DPS unit in the game, and Novik literally amplifies her damage 10 times because of his special move. It says, when all allies deal a basic attack to enemies in the seal zone, the attack coefficient increases by 100%. So he pretty much amplifies Kaiser's damage by a ton. So picking Novik against bosses, really, really nice choice. Next unit we have is, of course, Blarode. Blarode, very, very good against bosses. And the reason why is because of his exclusive equipment. For his exclusive equipment, I think for level 4, he can set the enemy's magic and physical resistance to 0, which is insane. Plus, he inflicts a lot of debuffs on the enemy, which is really good. I'm pretty sure he has swiftness decrease. If I look at one of his hits, I'm pretty sure he inflicts a swiftness decrease. It says right here, if there are no other enemies near the closest enemy, this effect isolates them. Blarode's attack increases by 60% when attacking an isolated target. There it is. Reducing their swiftness by 20. So he has a lot of debuffs. And the fact that there's just one enemy you're focusing on, Blarode can pretty much inflict all the debuffs on that one single boss unit. So Novik, I mean not Novik, Blarode, they kind of look alike. I'm not going to lie. Novik and Blarode, they low-key look alike. But Blarode, very, very good against boss units. Now, next thing I will recommend is, of course, Lero. Lero, very, very good due to the fact that he can shred defense. And on top of that, he can also increase blue element allies attack, which is really good for Kaiser. So this wishlist is pretty much for Kaiser, to be honest. Like, if you have Kaiser, I feel like this wishlist is very, very good for her because, like, these characters, they just amplify her damage by a ton. And last thing I would recommend is, of course, Blanc because of her phase 2. Now, if you don't have Blanc at Revolution phase 2, if you don't have her tier 4 or 5, I would definitely say 5. If you don't have her tier 5, then don't go for Blanc for the boss wish list. Another unit I would go for against bosses, honestly, I would go for Hats because of the defense shred. The defense shred is very, very good against bosses. And another good boss unit would be this guy as well. He is very, very good against bosses. So when it comes to, units you should use against bosses, there are a couple characters that you should definitely focus on. There are some units that don't require, max copies, but trying to max them out to get that battle start energy is very beneficial. So I will say these are like the top units when it comes to fighting against bosses. Another great unit against bosses would be Endorsi. Endorsi, the fact that she has the defense decrease is pretty useful. So Child Endorsi, also pretty good against bosses. And then what's another unit? I want to make sure that I cover every single unit. This unit is also not that bad. Red Mask Qua against bosses. She can pretty much increase physical pierce, and she also has that stun, which is very useful. So I will say her utility against bosses isn't that bad, but she shouldn't be like your main priority against bosses. And then, okay, now this unit right here, Verdi. Now, the reason why I'm not recommending her is because of Kaiser. But if you don't have Kaiser, and if you are a new player, and if you want to deal pretty good damage against bosses, if you end up getting Verdi in a normal summon banner, don't be afraid to use her because you don't have Kaiser yet. So I will say if you don't have Kaiser on your account and you want to deal really good damage against bosses, Verdi is a great pick. But once you get Kaiser, there is literally no need for you to use this unit at all, because Kaiser just she's just busted. She is just a Chad. So Verdi, only use her if you don't have Kaiser. Once you have Kaiser, you can just take Verdi off this wish list because she's just irrelevant. Like honestly, I only use Verdi if I want to do additional damage. But other than that, Kaiser is the main focus here. And of course, we have Narei. Narei phase 2 is absolutely insane against bosses. So Narei is a great pick if you have a Revolution phase 2. If you don't have a Revolution phase 2, then I wouldn't go for a Narei here. If you are planning on investing in her Revolution phase 2, I think that's a better way to say it. If you're planning on investing in her phase 2, then you definitely want to put Narei in this wish list because she is great against bosses. So I will say this is a pretty nice boss wish list because these units, they pretty much focus on amplifying your damage, which is good overall. Now, once you pretty much have most of the meta units maxed out in the game, then for this wish list, this is when you pretty much have the privilege to max out units that can help you at the late game. So Endorsey, now the reason why they recommend Summer Endorsey is because her passive pretty much restricts her in one element, which is Green Element Team. And when it comes to Green Element Team comp, you mostly have SSR plus units in this team. You have Zahard, you have, what's another unit? Punisherin, Child Yuri, SSR plus Healing Flame Yua. You have all of these SSR plus units that are pretty much meta for Green Element. But when it comes to SSR units, we don't really have a lot of options. We have Endorsey, of course, really strong, tanking it for Green Element. We have Lero, who's amazing with Punisherin because of that magic pierce and defense increase for Endorsey. And then, of course, we have Child Endorsey right here, which is pretty much good. It's pretty good against bosses. We have Shalil here. Now, Shalil, she's a decent DPS unit, but she's not crazy. So focusing on, Shalil, I will say it will benefit you at the early phase and mid game, but I will say in the late game, she can deal great damage. It's just that you have to pair up with the unit that's going to pretty much, increase her survivability. So SR plus Ewa, for example. So Shalil is a really nice option. And I will say for this spot right here, you can pretty much put Lorray. He is a one-shot unit. Very nice. You also have Meesing, who's a really nice Green Element one-shot unit as well. So Green Element, when it comes to SSR characters, it's not that insane. I will say the only characters that are pretty much like the only characters that are really decent and really strong for Green Element is Endorsey. She is absolutely wonderful. If you have, your Green Element team built, if you have Zahard, SR plus Iwa, Endorsey is amazing. Lero, very good, especially because he buffs basic attack, blocks projectile attacks, buffs magic pierce, and he can also increase defense if you have his phase 2. Very good unit overall. And then Endorsey, pretty good against bosses because of the defense shred, and she can deal really good damage at the early phase of the game, but at the late phase, her damage isn't that crazy. So I will say for these last two units, they're situational. They're not going to work, like 90% or 100% of the time. But for these two units right here, you are always going to use them in Green Element team. Always. Like, Endorsey is pretty much a must-have unit. Like, she's not a must-have unit, but she is a great unit for Green Element team. Like, she is a nice addition. So, Lero and Endorsey are pretty much like the best SSR Green Element units. And then for Shalil and Endorsey, they're situational. So that's pretty much the green wish list. Now, this is the last wish list I'm going to organize. Now, this wish list is pretty much going to focus on situations. Like, these are pretty much situational characters. They're not extremely meta, but they can work depending on the situation. So the first thing I'm going to recommend here is going to be Vicente. Now, like I said, this wish list, do not use this wish list unless you have pretty much all the meta units maxed out. Like, if you have all the meta units at like 3 red stars and above, then you can focus on these situational characters. So Vicente, the reason why Vicente is a great situational unit is because of Kunadan and Punisherin. those two units are absolutely annoying at the late phase of the game. So Vicente, he can pretty much drag the enemy with the highest attack and one tap them. Sometimes he doesn't one tap them, but what's very valuable is the fact that he's able to disrupt the enemy team formation. So Vicente, he is not a meta unit. He's not insanely powerful, but he works in certain situations. So you only want to use Vicente when you want to get rid of the enemy with the highest attack, to get rid of Kunadan or Punisherin. And yeah, that's pretty much what he's useful for. After he one-shots the enemy, he's just a sitting chicken. He doesn't do anything, which is kind of sad, but it is what it is. So Vicente, really good pick for situations. Next thing we have is Blarode. Now Blarode, I recommend him a lot. Boss team and the third wish list, but he is a situational character in adventure mode as well, because he is going to pull Blanc and pretty much stop Blanc from healing the enemy team. Once you guys reach higher deficits, higher levels, Larode will be very valuable when it comes to interrupting the team's formation. He is very, very good when it comes to that. So Larode, definitely going to need him. He is a situational unit. I'll say he's situational like 70% of the time. He's mostly useful for his grapple hook, and that's pretty much it when it comes to adventure mode. But in bosses, he is great against he's great when it comes to debuffing. So Larode, really, really nice situational unit. Now, another situational unit I would pick here, honestly, I would have to go for this is a tough one. I would honestly have to go for, guys, who should I pick here? You know who I'm gonna pick when it comes to certain situations? I'm gonna pick this is actually hard, I'm not gonna lie. Uh who's a great situational unit, like a unit that's pretty good in, you know, specific situations? Oh, Michael, there he is. This guy, he is really good when it comes to getting rid of the enemy that is directly in front of him. So let's say you have, what's a good example? Let's say you have a unit that, let's say Joaquin. Joaquin, for example. There's a Joaquin standing directly in front of Michael. He's going to instantly one-tap Joaquin. Or let's say Hayura. He can instantly one-tap units that are directly in front of him. So Michael, he is a great situational unit. I will say he's not good most of the time because, you know, he's pretty much there to one-tap enemies at the start of the battle. But after that, it depends. So Michael is definitely a great situational unit when it comes to one-tapping enemies. And then after that, another great situational unit I would say is Lorray. Lorray, he's great for one tapping. Really, really good for one tapping. He's not good most of the time, but when it comes to one-shotting enemies, Lorray can be very, very good when it comes to one-tapping enemies in adventure mode. So Lorray, really, really nice option. And then after that, I will say after that will be another nice situational unit. I will say Missing. Missing, also great situational unit because her job is to one-shot. So I will say when it comes to situations, these characters, they can definitely do their job whenever you need them to do something, whenever you need them to get rid of an enemy immediately, or you want them to disrupt enemy team formation. I will say these units are definitely on top when it comes to specific situations. Other than that, Shibisu, the reason why they recommend Shibisu is because of Bomb, but Shibisu is a really great support unit, especially for light element. If you put magic and physical resistance on him, he is very, very powerful as a support unit. So Shibisu, very, very good. If you don't have a lot of magic and physical resistance on him, he will die fast. So you're gonna make sure that you make a Shibisu an extremely tanky unit. So those are pretty much the wish list I recommend for you guys. Different wish lists for different situations, but I feel like when I look at all these wish lists, like when I look at all the wish lists I just organized for y'all, the number one wish list that can pretty much carry you long term is of course Purple Team Comp. And then when it comes to the boss wish list, that's if you want to deal insane damage against bosses. But some units in the boss wish list, it can also carry you in adventure mode. Huarun is a perfect example. Really, really good at the early phase of the game, and at the late phase, she pretty much becomes a pure support buffing unit. So that is pretty much the wish list wanted to organize for you guys. Now, what we're gonna do is we're gonna come over here. Actually, before I go back to before I go back to mock battle, let me put my characters back in. So I wanted more copies on Endorsi, more copies on Bomb. I wanted more copies on my Gia. And who else did I want more copies of? I'm pretty sure I wanted more copies on Vargarv. Where is he at? There he is. More copies on Vargarv and Vivi. We are only missing one more copy. So you guys clearly see what I'm like. This is a perfect example. Once you reach the late phase, you have the privilege to focus on units that are, how can I say this? You have the privilege to focus on, you know, maxing out support units and maxing out tank units. For the early phase of the game, maxing out a tank unit as like your main priority should not be your focus. It should be DPS characters. But once you reach the late game, it should definitely, like, you have the privilege to pretty much focus on other units besides DPS characters. So when we come over here to mock battle, so Larode, he can literally one tap Quant. As you guys can see, I dealt max damage, and I'm going to prove it to you guys right now just to show that I'm not talking out of my ass and I'm actually stating facts. So I enter battle, max Rainbow Stars Larode. You don't even have to have his ignition weapon built. Like, you don't even have to level him up. You can just, I think you need to have like I'll say your Link EXP, like your Link level has to be very high. Like, you probably have to have like double S or triple S in order for you to just instantly one-shot Quant with a Larode. But just look at this. I'm gonna grab Quant. He didn't do it this time. Okay. He didn't do it this time. Why are you guys doing this to me right now? Why are you guys doing this to me right now? Where's my replay? I don't understand why they're doing this to me right now. I wish I can actually replay Larode one tapping Quant, but now out of all the times that I attempted mock battle in any video and I'm trying to prove a point, that's when you guys don't want my Larode to one tap Quant. Are you serious? Come on, man, don't embarrass me in this video, bro. Please. Thank you. So as you guys can see, he literally one tap Quant. Max damage. Look at Larode's damage. 5 billion. So Larode, he is literally amazing when it comes to Quant and mock battle. You don't even have to use Kaiser, to be honest. Like, it could just be Larode and that's it. So definitely recommend you guys to summon for Larode. He is an awesome unit overall, especially in adventure mode and in and against bosses. So hope you guys enjoyed today's video. Make sure you hit that like button and subscribe if you haven't. I really appreciate it, and I'll be catching you guys on the next one. Peace.